This is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Équinoxe Television, live from my headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. A politician in charge, Success Masura, qualifies the putting in place of a military transitional council after the death of Idriss Déby Itno as a coup d'etat. He condemns France for accepting what is anti-constitutional and undemocratic in that country. You will hear him in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Équinoxe Television, in which we will also talk about the death of the Vice President of Cameroon's lower house of Parliament, Honorable Monjowa Lifaka. We'll also talk about issues of inadequate portable water supply and other development challenges affecting Tombel in the southwest region. Stay with us. Thanks once more for joining us on this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast on Équinoxe Television. We begin in Tombel in the southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, added to the security challenges affecting that part and the rest of Anglophone Cameroon. The northwest and southwest regions of the country under development challenges are also making life quite difficult for inhabitants, and one of the greatest underdevelopment challenges that the people are facing is inadequate portable water supply, added to issues of poor road networks in that part of the country. Immaculate Fokwe has more.
A municipal councillor of the Tombel Council frowns at the limited access of potable water in several neighborhoods in the municipality. According to him, those managing the municipality need to double their efforts.
That is not why our people have elected us. We are elected people, and we should work for the interests of our people. Madam, the mayor says her doors are now open. Some of us have come from villages. I come from a very steep zone where now there is no water flowing there. And I'm indirectly telling Madam that my request is that I need water to flow in my village to satisfy the population.
The precious liquid, which has become very rare, has forced several inhabitants to depend on doubtful sources, which makes them sick. During the Tombel Council's 2020 Stores Account and Management session, municipal officials and administrators agreed to address the water crisis.
Our main problem in Tombel is water. Yes. Every day, children leave Ngab to Kupe, Ebamukwata to Mambokwata. We have water crisis in Tombel. Yes. It's in our account, and we are just happy that the mayor has been very, very understanding. So the commission will go to the catchment on Monday to see what is really the matter. So 12 councillors have been choosing to see what is happening water crisis in Tombel.
The administrative account has been adopted. But we have noticed that local revenue are very, very low. So we have instructed the executive to do everything possible to rise up the level of local collections.
The slow pace at which work is executed has been blamed on the Anglophone crisis. The senior divisional officer of Kupe Maningoba Division, Jean-Marie Chakwi, urges municipal authorities to endeavor raising funds rather than solely depending on FACOM, which is a special council support for mutual assistance.
The security climate reigning in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon is putting question marks on administrative and security claims that the situation is stabilizing, even as operations carried out by troops have been ongoing with war arsenals and personal belongings of the inhabitants recovered from separatist crimes still continue in the northwest region of the country, with other atrocities being recorded at close intervals of time. Our correspondent in the northwest region, Bookstella, reports.
This Land Cruiser was taken at gunpoint from Madam Sarah Asongo about a week ago. She was in the company of her daughter. They were at a funeral ceremony in Gamgam. In front of almost everyone, gunmen almost took her and the car away.
Out of a sudden, a certain lady just came and pointed at me and said that this is her. So I thought that maybe I was obstructing somebody. And then one of them came. That one came and opened his dress like that and showed me a short gun. That if I resist again, he's going to waste me. And then the man that was holding me to, his hand was loose, and I removed my hand from his hand and then just ran into the house.
The car was later found 1 week after, hidden in Raffia Palms in Tanka, a neighborhood soldiers say is renowned for separatist activities. It was recovered on Tuesday during an offensive carried out by elements of the Defense and Security Forces led by Major Conrad Onana.
It was the operation which was conducted from Emergence 5. We got information concerning the stolen of the car, this car and other things in this area, which is very dangerous. So you planned operation, and is that you can't find the vehicle here.
Madam Sarah's husband was the owner of the car. After his demise in 2020, she drove the car months later as she feared parked for too long, the car might develop fault. This Tuesday, April 20th, she drove the car for the first time since the incident. She is thankful to the forces.
When I looked at the population that had to move all this race just to come and get this car, I felt like crying.
But this incident and many others raised concerns about the actual security climate of the Northwest region. Administrative and security officials have often said that the security situation of the region is stabilizing. Though under the control of the Defense and Security Forces, incidences like this one and many others are becoming regular. Just 3 days ago, 5 people were shot dead in a bar and several others wounded, while kidnapping for ransom are taking place even in the city center, to name these few. Although the population have a collaborative role to play in their security and safety, these are indications what are yet to match with the actual situation on the field.
ETV's Stella reporting there from the northwest region of the country. Cameroon's lower house of parliament vice president Honorable Munjowa Emilia Lifaka is no more. She died yesterday following malaise. Honorable Munjowa Lifaka became member of parliament for Fako West in the southwest region of the country in 2002, and our correspondent in the southwest region, Derek Jato, was at her Boya residence and now reports.
From that yesterday 8 p.m. up to this hour, here at our residence in Boya, people have been trooping into this compound to condole with the bereaved family, and some are still in shock. But yet it is true that Honorable Munjowa Lifaka, Honorable Member of Parliament on the ticket of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, the CBDM, who is also the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association President and the Fako Permanent Delegation of the CBDM, died last night, the 20th day of April 2021. What really happened has not been established, but sources say she felt a little bit ill yesterday and walked herself to the hospital here in Boya, but did not return. It is quite a disturbing situation here. Many people we spoke to told us that she has been a mother, she has been a benefactress, and she has been a sole pillar to many here, not only those under her constituency, but everyone that she came across. Well, at this particular moment, her remains is deposited at the Boya Regional Mortuary, pending burial. I am Derek Jato from the residence of late Honorable Lifaka Munjowa in Boya, signing out.
Thank you, Derek Jato. Now to Chad, a politician in that country, Success Masra, president of Transformateur political party, has qualified the putting in place of a military transitional council after the death of the president Idriss Déby Itno as a coup d'etat, and he condemns France for, according to him, accepting what is anti-constitutional and anti-democratic. In his opinion, the French Republic, in its reaction concerning the passing away of the president of that country, Idriss Déby Itno, validated somehow the coup d'etat, what he qualifies as coup d'etat. Take a listen to Success Masra, president of Transformateur political party in Chad.
C'est un coup d'etat. Et comme c'est un coup d'etat, est-ce qu'on est en train de dire qu'il n'y a pas de problème dans cette sous-région Afrique centrale, dans cette Afrique, si on organise un coup d'etat? C'est un coup d'etat dans la mesure où la constitution actuelle ne prévoit pas que ce soit l'armée qui prenne le pouvoir. La France s'est précipitée pour prendre acte. Prendre acte de quoi? Du coup d'État? Prendre acte de la transmission dynastique du pouvoir? Je vous dis, je tombe des...
That was Success Masra, president of Transformateur political party in Chad, speaking there. The death of the Chadian president Idriss Déby Itno has been surrounded by a wave of controversies, and though military sources say he died from his wounds he sustained during battle, some critical political opinions say he was assassinated by his close allies in a mask coup d'etat. For me, Armstrong Sander report.
The circumstances that led to the death of the long-serving Chadian president, Marshal Idriss Déby Itno, remains controversial. State media announced on Tuesday that Idriss Déby Itno breathed his last, defending the sovereign nation on the battlefield. Déby, 68, had gone to the front line, several hundred kilometers north of the capital, N'Djamena, to visit troops battling rebels belonging to a rebel group known as Front for Change and Concord in Chad. The manner of his death was in keeping with a career that had begun in the officer corps, accelerated by a stint at the École de Guerre Defense College in France. He would later launch his own revolt to depose former President Hissène Habré in 1990. Chad had a former structure of a multi-party democratic state, but real power was concentrated firmly at the top. Déby brooked no serious opposition over his 30-year stay at the helm of Chad. He consistently faced down rebellion, helped by several military interventions from his longtime ally France. The news of the demise of Idriss Déby Itno came a day after provisional election results projected that he was going to win a 6th term in office, but they had been growing unhappiness over his government's management of Chad's oil resources. Following his fall, a military council led by his son, 37-year-old 4-star General Muhammad Idriss Déby Itno, was immediately constituted to manage the affairs of Chad, a precipitated move that has reinforced the controversy over his death. Some critical political minds in and out of Chad have categorically stated that Idriss Déby Itno was assassinated by his own camp in a mask coup d'etat. Another fact to substantiate this opinion is the precipitated switch of allegiance to the military council by the former Déby powerful and Western allies. Proponents of a Déby camp mask coup d'etat also say that the swift move from the military council to dissolve government, parliament and suspend the Chadian constitution is an evidence not to be ignored.
And before his death, Chadian President Idriss Déby Itno spoke to prominent Cameroonian journalists working with Radio France International, Alain Foucault, and in that interview, he explained the challenges and the difficulties he has been facing for over 3 decades that he has been in power in that country. We come back to all of that in this report compiled by Charles Sekome.
Upon his installation as President of the Republic of Chad, Idriss Déby Itno confided in Alain Foka. Among the subjects discussed with a prominent journalist was the political situation in Chad since its independence.
5 années après son indépendance, nous avons connu ce qu'on appelait en son temps, ou ce qu'on appelle aujourd'hui, la révolte des paysans.
5 years after independence, we got to witness what can be termed as a rebellious revolt from fellow countrymen. These revolts have been at the origin of all the problems Chad is facing today. We have experienced so many years of war as part of the northern territory has been occupied by Libyan rebel troops. We have suffered the birth of so many rebel groups and also 8 years of dictatorship, which is one of the worst phases in our history as a people.
Pendant 8 années d'une dictature tragique que le monde n'ait jamais connue.
The dictatorship referred by Idriss Déby Itno is that of Hissène Habré's regime, a question which surpasses the understanding of many because he served under his governance. Idriss Déby claims that he decided to stay on the good side of history.
Je suis un soldat, j'ai choisi le camp de Habré pour la simple raison que les autres tendances politico-militaires.
I am a soldier, and I chose to serve under Habré's regime for one simple reason, and this was because he fought hard to recapture part of the Chadian territory in the north, which was occupied by Libyan rebel troops. And for this reason, I couldn't join forces with people who were accomplices to people who occupied parts of our national territory.
J'ai pris ma décision. Et je suis parti.
Idriss Déby took over power by overthrowing Hissène Habré and served for more than 30 years, which is considered to many as not a democratic move. Idriss Déby confided in Alain Foka that the Chadians will judge him, but as to what concerns the economy of Chad, the president claims the stability of the Republic of Chad is most important due to repeated conflicts in the nation.
Si j'ai estimé nécessaire en 1993 de tenir la conférence nationale souveraine, ce n'est pas quelqu'un qui m'a imposé.
Chadians and historians speak often about my reign, but at least I have always been on the good side of history because I have never flirted with the opposition and rebel groups. In 1993, I organized the National Sovereign Conference so as to dialogue with my fellow countrymen. I will tell you this, Mitterrand told me not to organize this conference because he believed we might end up fighting in the hall. He was speaking in the presence of President Bongo, but I went on and organized it because the stepping up of our economy is based on ambition and plans which we drew up from the year 1999. 75% of our resources came from the production of petroleum products, which injected revenue in our economy. I used to tell Chadians, be careful because crude oil is a resource which will not be there forever, so they shouldn't count on it forever. In less than a week, a barrel of fuel which cost $110 now cost $30. It was a terrible shock which hindered our economy.
$110, de $110 à $30 en une semaine. C'est un choc terrible, mais nous avons tenu.
The modification of the constitution paved the way for the president to be elected several times. The age limit to become a presidential candidate was changed from 40 years to 45 years. Idriss Déby Itno claims that he was not responsible and that it was a decision stipulated by the National Assembly.
Still to come on Équinoxe Television concerning the situation in neighboring Chad, a full and exclusive interview of Success Masra, president of Transformateur political party in Chad, who speaks elaborately about the situation in Chad and his recent meeting with President Idriss Déby Itno. He spoke to Cedric Nufil, and you're going to have that full interview at 8 p.m. today. On to something else now. Former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin found guilty of all 3 charges for killing George Floyd. The man who knelt on George Floyd's neck for more than 9 minutes last year was found guilty yesterday in one of the most consequential trials in the Black Lives Matter era. Derek Chauvin, 45 years old, was convicted of 2nd-degree unintentional murder, 3rd-degree murder, and 2nd-degree manslaughter. The jurors deliberated for more than 10 hours over 2 days before coming to their decision. Officials said Derek Chauvin was taken to a facility in Stillwater, Minnesota, about 25 miles east of downtown Minneapolis. Now, for greater details on these, we talk to a Cameroonian American New York-based attorney and counselor at law and human rights defender, Barrister Aneneba Innocent Akufo. Take a listen.
And all the viewers on Équinoxe TV, again, thank you for reaching out for me to give my perspective on the decision that transpired yesterday. The verdict against Derek Chauvin, who is now a convicted former cop in Minneapolis, who murdered George Floyd last May. And of course, we have spoken briefly about this last year in one of our appearances. But again, you look at the beauty of the system, it did work. He was charged on 3 different crimes, and he was convicted on all 3. So the government presented their case, the defense presented their case, and they decided to hand over the case to the jury. And now the jury they're not legal minds, they're not lawyers, they're not prosecutors, they're just regular people in the community that are selected to look at the evidence that's been presented by both parties and come out with a decision. And you know, in the United States, the American system utilizes 3 types of juries. You have the investigative grand jury. That's the one that looks at the totality of the charges and the circumstances and decide if someone should be indicted or not. Then, of course, you have the petit jury, which is also called a trial jury. That is the one that decided that Mr. Chauvin should be found guilty. And of course, you have the civil jury, which is another one that decides on issues on civil cases. And because Mr. Chauvin's liberty was in jeopardy, the government had to provide him with an attorney if he could not find one. And that's why he had a good representation, because his liberty was in jeopardy. And again, he was found guilty on all 3 charges. So, and the sentencing will be coming in a couple of months, whether, you know, following some aggravation or some mitigation. That's when the judge will decide if, you know, he spends 40 years or 12 years in detention. So again, the system did work. Thank you so much for having me once more on your program, and always a pleasure to give my perspective. Bye.
Barrister Neneba Akufo Innocent Ado Innocent, that is Barrister Neneba Innocent Akufo, a Cameroonian American based in the United States of America, notably in New York, attorney and counselor at law and human rights defender, speaking there. Now we're going to take you to talking points right away. Thank you for joining us in Talking Points. We are receiving Professor Mark Anthony Akumbom, and of course he is the founder and chairman of the United Africa for Economic Empowerment civil society organization. Thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Babila, and an opportunity to be here to respond to the questions you have for me concerning the happenings in Africa.
Professor Akumbom Mark Anthony, you are a Pan-Africanist. We're going to take a look at the situation in Chad and the consequences of what is happening there on the Sahel zone, and of course the Central African sub-region with countries like Cameroon and Nigeria, and even the Central African Republic that are connected to Chad and all what is happening there in Chad. First of all, your take about what has been happening there for the last few days. Immediately after the death of President Idriss Déby, a transitional council, a transitional military council was put in place, and the National Assembly, of course, dissolved, the government dissolved, the constitution suspended. What's your take about all of that?
Before I get to talk about that, actually I want to talk about the way I felt when I heard about the death of Déby. You know, there is a video that is trending right now on social media. Actually, it was like a prediction of Déby's death from his own mouth, where he was like telling his nationals or his citizens that as a president, normally you shouldn't go out to the war front, but for the sake that he loves his country and he doesn't want to see instability, he doesn't want to see that same nation he has built for over 30 years to become what it is right now, to get into chaos. And so for that reason, he prefers to die at the war front rather than sit in his palace. That is a leadership capacity that most of our African leaders do lack, especially those of the French-speaking Africa. That's a leadership skill that is lacking. But he, for the sake of his nation, for the love of his nation, went out there and he met his death. And when I heard about it, I was devastated. And I felt really bad, because if you look at things very well, he has been the person that has been holding the Boko Haram from creating havoc around Central Africa and even the Sahel region. He has been the person practically maintaining stability. If you remember, when the crisis happened,
qualify him as the gendarme in the
Sahel
zone.
When you remember, when the situation in Mali happened back then, he sent 2,000 soldiers into Mali at very fast. When Central Africa happened, he sent 400 soldiers into Central Africa. That is because he expects that there should be stability. And we will not want to talk about Cameroon. He has been one of those individuals who has been fighting against the Boko Haram. With his death, I don't know.
Multinational task force.
He did the
and
Chadian
soldiers in thousands.
You see, I feel like we are about to experience a situation that is going to be messy. Why? The person who had the strategy and tact on how to quell down terrorism in this, let me use the word Semak sub-region before we are talking about the Sahel, is dead. And not just dead, but dead in a funny kind of way. And apart from that, his body, you see the pictures that are going around, you see Africans have got to start respecting human dignity and the sacredness of the dead. I am shocked that I see videos and pictures all around.
And there are lots of controversies surrounding his death. The official sources, notably the military, is saying that he sustained injuries at the battlefront and he died of those injuries. But there are other sources that are indicating that he was assassinated.
Yes,
away from the battlefield.
At this particular point, Babila, we cannot take away the various options. We must put them together in order to actually determine exactly how he met his death, his demise. I don't believe that it is just because he went to the war front that he was shot. Something might have happened, but if in case it happens that he was killed by the rebels, then there is need for good evidence to be brought to the forefront.
Now,
but I want to, before you get in, I want to say that I believe more that the death of Déby is a death that was orchestrated back in 2006 when the French entered Chad, single-handedly changed the constitution of a nation to give a president who had decided that as a military man, I need to give my word. He had given his word to his people that at his last term, he's not going to run for elections. The French sent a constitutionalist to come into France, influence his opinion. Though he refused that he's not going to go in, they went ahead to change the constitution without a single campaign he won. Those are words that came out of the mouth of Déby himself. That was the day Déby was killed, because he disrespected his words. He went in for an election which he was not supposed to go in. He did not campaign, but he won. It is not because he's dead now that we will think he died but yesterday. He died back in 2006, and killed by the French through their strategy of influence in Africa.
And politicians like Success Masra, president of Transformateur Political Party, indicate that he actually continued staying in power out of his will. And equally recently there was another issue synonymous to that which occurred, notably the modification of the constitution that reviewed the age to be a candidate to about 45, I think so, and that excluded Success Masra from the presidency, from the presidential race. But the question now is, should we continue? This is the question that Pan-Africanists like you are asking, that should we continue? Should African heads of state continue depending on French experts, French politicians to come and change the constitution for us and force an African head of state to stay in power out of his will?
You see, those are some of the things which I think that for some of these our leaders to prove that they love Africa, they must go to this place where even if you are forced, you better choose to die than disobey and disobey your words or go against your own words. You better choose to die than to put your people in a situation where tomorrow there will be lack of respect for you. You see, the French in Africa do not actually work for the good of Africans. They are working for the good of France. And until our leaders get to understand this, we will keep on holding up, believing that they are the ones who are the reason and the cause of our failures. Like you heard, the young man actually made it plain that Déby was in power out of his will. He was not there because he wanted to be there. He has said that in two different interviews, which the French journalists came to interview him. He told them plain, I am here not because I really wanted to. I'm here because my hands are tied and I've been forced to be here.
Now, shortly after his death, a constitutional or a military transitional council is put in place, institutions, dissolve the constitution, suspend it, and so on. And Success Masra qualifies this as a coup d'etat.
Yes, it is a coup d'etat. It is a coup d'etat because there is a constitutional manner in which this transition is supposed to take place. The
Article 81 of the country constitution indicates that power normally is supposed to shift to the president of the National Assembly and the vice in case of the absence of the president.
Good. So with that provision of the law, if the son of Déby comes up today and dissolves not only the government, he dissolves the National Assembly, then it means he has dissolved the constitution. It implies there is no constitution presently in that nation. That is proof of bad faith. And that is proof that we are going in for bitterness. There's going to be more chaos in Chad from every indication. It is not going to go, they will not just allow this young man to come in and sit. It is going to be true fight. And I don't know if he has learned from his father, because I will be sincere in telling you this. Déby is the only president that had ever ruled in, or say led the people of Chad for more than 10 years, going for 30 years. The first president had the opportunity to do 15. There was another one who did not have up to 2 days. Then you have Abri, who struggled to stabilize Chad until when he started thinking falsely or having paranoia concerning Idris Deby, who came back later on through the help of Libya and Sudan to actually overtake him, and that was a coup d'etat. He dissolved everything too, like his son has come and done, and re-established the constitution and said, okay, we need to enter into multipartism, and democracy needs to be reinstated in this nation. That has been happening.
And for the past 30 years that he has been in power, some consider this as a failure on his part, not being able to actually stabilize his country, because there have been rebel attacks from the FACT rebel movement and other rebel groups repeatedly at close intervals of time. And Idris Deby Itno was the image of stability, stiff resistance to terrorism in the Sahel zone, and even in the Central African sub-region with the Boko Haram issue and all of that. Now that he is no more, how do you foresee the future as far as the terrorism move is concerned in these zones?
Okay, before I talk about the terrorism issue, to answer those who say that he was a failure, it means the people who are saying that do not know the history of Chad, because just barely 5 years after the independence of Chad in 1960, barely 5 years after, that country started experiencing attacks, rebellion till present date. The only person who has been able to stabilize that nation and give it a kind of prosperity and remove the nation from poverty as it used to be, swept out corruption. I will tell you, in 2006, that nation came out as the first. In fact, it came at the top of corruption. But last year, if you go back, it shows that out of 168, Chad came in 140 something. That should make you understand that they had shifted position.
We're running out of our time. Very quickly, what could possibly be the consequences of his absence, and probably a situation of chaos in Chad, on Cameroon, Mali, Niger, Central African Republic, all these countries that were benefiting from the actions of the Chadian military?
I will tell you, it's going to be devastating. Why? Because I think that a strong supporter to the Central African region is gone. I don't know if his son is going to pick up and take the same direction, strategies. I don't think so. Mali and the whole of Sahel was depending on Deby, on Chad. We are not saying that he is a god. I'm simply saying that when somebody does something, at the end of the day, we should be able to appreciate him for what he has been able to do. It's not the length of time that somebody stays in power. It is what he is able to do. And I know in Africa we have copied the European system of democracy, where you have to have 5 years of leadership. It is good to be there for 5 years. I think Mogafoli actually showed us that 5 years is possible to make a great difference.
All right, thanks so much, Professor Akumbom McAntony, founder and chairman of the United Africa for Economic Empowerment Civil Society Organization. Thank you for coming. We'll certainly have another opportunity to discuss in greater details. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today. Équinoxe is up next, live from Cameroon's political capital, Yaoundé.